Prawn here with some simple tips on things you might have missed in Grounded. For example, did you know that it's possible to use some weapons to create food? You can see me here using the salt mace to create jerky from creatures. This is really easy and it works on a variety of creatures. If those creatures drop meat as standard, you can use the salt mace to turn that meat immediately into jerky, meaning you don't need to use it on a drying rack or cook that creature in order to eat it. This is really handy because it obviously means you can get food while out and about. It works on weevils, on aphids, and all sorts of other creatures, and you can do it really easily and then just grab some extra food. And this means that you have a consumable food stuff in your pocket that you can get really easily. Now, bear in mind that the salt mace is at quite a high level. More on that in a second, but it's not the only weapon that does it. You can see here, for example, there's a spicy staff, which when you fire that at certain creatures, turns them into a lovely roast dinner. So you can make yourself a nice gnat roast with relative ease. The spicy staff is a level 3 weapon, and it's a ranged one, and making it requires some unlocks, so it's a bit further on in the game, as is the salt mace, but it's worth bearing in mind because you might not have realised that these weapons are able to do that. You'll find the spicy staff under the ranged lot when you've researched and found the unlocks for those things, and you can see the stuff that you need here in order to get it, so you require some other bits, and it's quite far into the game, but it is really handy. And the Salt Morning Star, which is really good against a variety of creatures, is also handy for making those wonderful snacks. Then we're on to smoothies. So smoothies are really powerful because they can give you all sorts of boosts in terms of poison resistance, healing abilities, more damage and other things. They're really good for taking on the harder enemies. One of the bases for the smoothies is mussel sprouts. Now, mussel sprouts are really beneficial because they are actually easy to reproduce. So the other ones aren't so much. Chewing gum, for example, is a bit hard to find, but the mussel sprouts you can actually grow in a garden patch. So you can see that I've got some growing here, and it's relatively easy to do, and I didn't realise that this was possible, but essentially you just put that in there along with some rotten food, and then you can grow a bunch of mussel sprouts right in your base, and quite a lot of them, so it's easy to produce a lot and then have smoothie materials going on a regular basis, or at least the base for them. Now, in order to get mussel sprouts, what you need to do is to head over to the pond lab. So if you've not done that already, the main pond, you have to swim down into that and then go through the process of that. Now, there's probably guides on how to do the pond lab, but the good news is if you've done it, you can revisit it and you can get those mussel sprouts. So on my first playthrough, I went through and I got the mussel sprouts and I came back out and I didn't think anything of it, but you can actually revisit the lab and those mussel sprouts have regrown in the lab. So essentially you just need to get back down there. Now, to get into the lab in the first place is a little bit tricky. You need to make sure that you've got the gills and the mutations for swimming and the right equipment, maybe a smoothie to help you get down there, because you will drown several times otherwise. But once you've done that, you can then head back into the lab and then up into the top part of it. So in this main area here, you'll see there's a lot of mussel sprouts. So they will regrow over time. If you pick them, you can then take them back to your base and plant them there in the gardens, and therefore you can have easier access to them on a regular basis. Now on to building. Now you can build a grass staircase with weed stems and grass planks, and you can basically do it into the sky, and then from there you can build multiple levels of grass floor across into the distance. But did you know that you can also put grass onto zip lines? So materials can actually go onto zip lines. Now, if the zip line is up high enough and facing downwards, as in gravity will help, you can put things onto the zip line and they'll send back. So this is a good way to send resources back to your base or to a specific place on the map if it's something you want to do. Obviously, it requires some building. Another trick is you can actually duplicate grass if you're playing with friends. So I was hosting this game, but my friend Space Cannons was playing with me in the game. And what he discovered is if you're holding grass on your shoulder and then you quit the game, the grass will fall to the floor, and then you can basically just load the game up again and you've got the grass on your shoulder. So the benefit here is obviously you don't need to go back down from this massive platform we created, chop some grass down and come back up, because he just kept leaving and rejoining. It's a bit of a hassle and obviously perhaps a little bit cheating, but you're then building a grass platform really quickly and easily. Another thing with transporting is you will see that you can unload things. So if you've got a lot on your shoulder, you can press G to unload it, drop it on the floor and pile it up, ready to then craft things. But you can also huck. So if you press R, you'll throw those grass things or whatever you're carrying across a distance. This makes life a lot quicker in terms of optimizing your load. Some of the mutations also allow you to carry more. So you can see my friend Sir Henry Deadman here carrying a mass of weed stems to optimize his building. So we'll look at the mutations because they can be really helpful.